Jen and Judy are back for another caper. Well, that's not entirely accurate. Season 2 of the Netflix original series Dead to Me really is the continuing misadventures of Judy and Jen. Two women become friends through extraordinary circumstances after the death of one's husband. Season 2 picks up right where Season 1 left off, with that confrontation between Jen and Steve, and then a dire outcome. Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini reprise their roles as Jen and Judy, respectively. This Netflix drama is also a dark comedy that is filled with secrets and lies and a whole lot of yelling and drinking. In this dark comedy, I guess you can call it a dark comedy, it's really more of a drama, but it has some genuine comedic moments in there. I mean, I laughed out loud at certain points. I snickered at a bunch, and that's because of the delivery and the sarcasm that just permeates throughout. But on the whole, this season was really a lot more depressing and sad to me. I mean, there is so much fighting between all of the characters that it just slams you in the bell jar. And I understand that the situations that they find them in, the tenseness, and just because police are involved and people have died and there is mystery surrounding, at least from one aspect, from the police's point of view, there's mystery going on. I understand that all of the raised emotions, the super high tensions, just the anxiety that each of these characters feel may not necessarily bring out the best in them, but we see it just turned up to 11. Now, James Marsden is back, and he is really great in his role. I really enjoyed him this season. I wasn't too much of a fan last season, but this time he really grew on me, and he just endeared himself to me. And that may seem counterintuitive if you've only seen season 1. Trust me, it does make sense into season 2. And we are introduced to two new characters in this, and they're kind of cameos. They're not in for a large portion of the season, but they're there to really help flesh out the story and the characters, and especially in the character of Judy. So I really appreciated that we get more depth, and we just get to see more growth in Judy and who she is as a character, as a person. For those of you that enjoyed season 1 and you enjoyed seeing Karen, thanks Karen, in this, I'm happy to report she is back. Unfortunately, she still is the emotional punching bag of a lot of the characters, but she does get to have some great lines, and especially her delivery. I mean, it's dry and it's droll, and it's just kind of awkward with maybe a hint of irony in there and a little bit of sarcasm, but a lot of self-realization also. Like, she totally understands what's going on, and she's making the most of those situations. So I did enjoy the small parts that she had in there, even if she wasn't treated well. Now, this is a really quick watch. It's 10 episodes long. Most of those episodes are under 40 minutes. So it really is a very quick binge if you really chose to sit down and watch it from beginning to end. One really weird thing, and it hasn't happened to me in forever, was after episode 4, Netflix stopped it and was like, "Are you still watching Dead to Me?" Well, yeah, duh, shut up, keep going. Maybe you should ask me if I really needed to add that to my Amazon cart. Now, the pace of this is pretty good. I mean, it didn't drag and I wasn't bored with it, but I do believe that there are certain points to the story and even some of the characters that could have been condensed and then combined to maybe trim up an entire episode just to help it move along even more efficiently than it already did, because I think some of it did feel a little bit like filler, even if it wasn't hampering the pace. For me, the final 2 episodes were the best of this season. I mean, they really moved along. They showed us a little bit more of characters. They opened it up some, and it definitely moved along quickly. But it also gave a little bit of resolution to things. And I really liked that there was a little bit of hope in there as well. That it wasn't just all down and depressing the entire time. That we got to see glimpses of joy. And we got to see glimpses of happiness and forgiveness, or people just letting go and moving on, or standing up for themselves. I mean, there was so much going on in the final 2 episodes that I loved those 2. And I like where it's leading. There are many parts in the story that are dreadfully predictable. Like, we really know what's going to happen to a character, or why this setup is there, and why these circumstances are happening and these relationships are happening, because we know what the outcome is going to be. But that predictability, it didn't hamper the story or my enjoyment of it. This isn't a whodunit. So to know what's going to happen, it doesn't damage the story and doesn't damage the enjoyment that you can feel from it. But it is there. And so sometimes it can bother people of like, oh gosh, I saw all of this coming. I know exactly why this is. And maybe that leads to, you know what, you should have cut this part out because I already knew what was going to happen. And that would have just moved it along faster and got me to this point, which is where we were trying to go anyway. I think the thing I struggle most in this series, and especially in this season, is the tone. It really is angry. Now, sometimes angry comedy works, especially in dark comedy, where it can be a little jarring or a jab in there that makes it fun, but also causes a little bit of that pain in there as well. This one, though, it left me depressed through a lot of it. It just pushed me into that bell jar and then stomped on the lid and just shook me around in there. And I think a lot of that is the way that the characters treat each other. You can see how unhappy and stressed they are and how that manifests in all of their behavior and their words. But in this, it was kind of having a counterproductive effect on me. The comedy was getting a little lost at times, and more of just the dark was taking over. And then also, I've got to address the profanity in this. I mean, this is on Goodfellas level of profanity. Now, maybe profanity doesn't bother you, and most of the time I just gloss over it. It really became excessive in this. There were so many F-bombs in this that it was insane, that it became just another word. I mean, think about a teenager describing something, but they use and like. And so now, yeah, like, well, so I was down at the grocery store and like, replace all of those with the F-bomb. And that's what you were getting. And I think as a dad, it bothered me even more. And that's kind of twofold, because one is the way that Jen treats her children, how she speaks to them. And again, I get it. There are high tensions, high stress, just anxiety, sadness, a whole lot of emotions going on. But still, talking to and treating her kids the way she was doing was just, it was over the top for me, and it really made me sad. But then also, they had the youngest kid take part in all of the profanity as well. And that was just disappointing for me. Now, I know that, hey, you know what? Not everybody believes the way I do, or thinks the way I do, or even speaks the way I do. That's totally okay. You are in control of your mouth and the way you think, and I'm not trying to push that on you. But I do need to at least address it, because I do know that some people, especially as parents, that may bother you. You may not want to be exposed to that, or you definitely don't want your kids exposed to it. But if it's not a bother to you, if you don't care, then again, hey, you've just skipped over this part, and here we go. I really do like how season 2 wrapped up, and it does make me curious and excited for season 3. I want to know where they're going to go, what are the outcomes going to be, especially with some of the resolutions and the new findings that happen towards the end of season 2. Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini do really great in their performances. I mean, their emotions feel genuine. There is a lot of crying and grief and anger and even some joy sometimes. And each of those feelings and emotions, they come through and they ring true as genuine. And Linda Cardellini, especially as Judy, there are some times where, wow, that is a powerful performance that if you have known somebody who has struggled with depression and just self-loathing or self-harm, it will really just shine through as so legitimate in what she's doing. I mean, it was devastating to watch at times, and she was really, really good at it. There's no sex or nudity. There is some violence and a ton of profanity. I give season 2 of Dead to Me on Netflix 3.5 out of 5 couches. Did you watch season 1? Are you looking forward to season 2? Have you already watched season 2? Let me know about any of these in the comments. What you think, what you feel, what you really liked about it. Try not to give any spoilers, though, just for anybody who hasn't seen season 2 or maybe even season 1. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me.